Hi, my name is Arilla Wilson, and I'm here with Jenna Reedon, the cross country and track and field distance coach. I'll let you say a bit about yourself.
Hello, my name's Jenna. Like Arilla said, I just got to the University of Louisville in August, so I've been here for 6 months now, and I coach the distance running team here with Coach Walker.
In the text, it says that there is no universally accepted definition of good sporting behavior, although while observing sport, we are able to recognize good sportsmanship and fair play. Examples of good sporting behaviors include being respectful to your opponents and accepting the outcome whether you win or lose. How would you describe good sporting behavior? And what do you see in track and field that resembles good sporting behavior?
Yeah, I think track that is a good example of good sportsmanship because the sport is really unique where you see a lot of camaraderie in track and field and in distance running. Um, So, like an example would be if you're watching like a long jump, for example, a lot of the competitors will cheer each other on and actually clap for their competitors to do really well. And I don't think you typically see that in a lot of sports. So it's pretty neat. I think track and field sort of has this aura about like bringing the best out of each other. So you always want to compete against someone who is um, performing at their best so that you can bring your best to the table. And so I just think there's always been a lot of support in track, whether you're racing someone and you're kind of working together to beat someone else, or you're cheering on your competitor because you know that's going to make you better. I think those are good examples of showing good sportsmanship and wanting to get the best out of each other.
Very good. When developing character and good sporting behavior, there are three approaches, which include the social learning approach, structural developmental approach, and the social psychological approach. The social learning approach is when someone learns through observation, modeling, and social comparison. The structural development approach focuses on psychological growth and development changes in a child's thoughts through environmental experiences to shape moral reasoning. The social psychological approach looks at morality and the character of the sport. As an athlete, how do you think you developed character and good sporting behavior? And now, as a coach, how do you try and get your athletes to have good sportsmanship?
Yeah, I think so. Back as an athlete, I think that obviously you're looking to your coach for everything, for direction, for training. You watch his or her actions and you look at them, and they're basically, I mean, they're your mentor in a way, and you have to listen to what they're saying. So I was very lucky in my career to have phenomenal coaches. In high school and in college, I had two different coaches, and each one had like different personalities, but really were very invested in helping people get better. Um, and here at Louisville too, like Coach Walker is very good at learning people and knowing how to like figure out what drives them, and figure out like how to help them believe in themselves and how to help them be better, and not just giving them X's and O's, but giving them tools to believe in themselves. So I think that's like the biggest thing is every coach has a different way to help an athlete, but I think if you can give people confidence, so just giving them feedback and allowing them to say like, look, if you do these three things, you're gonna accomplish goal X. And typically, if you are invested as an athlete and as a coach, you do accomplish your goals. I mean, it doesn't work out that way all the time, but if you're invested in like the three things that you said you would do, whether like a process, so I'm going to, increase my training volume and I'm going to go to bed earlier and I'm going to, eat all the healthy foods that I can, well, those three things are probably going to, generate a better outcome. So I think just giving people like small attainable tools to accomplish their goals is like a great way to build confidence and a great way to help them be successful. And they tend to, I think, be more respectful towards the sport itself and towards other people. Um, especially when your coach is that way. So, again, I've been lucky, and my personality and all the coaches around me have always been respectful of competitors, other coaches, officials. I don't think track and field is typically the sport where you see like the hot head coach that kind of gets like crazy and in your face, but it can happen. But it's just not the way that I think you can get the best out of people.
The structural development approach looks at the 5 levels of moral reasoning. Level 1 reasoning is at the external control stage, that they think it is okay as long as I'm not caught. Level 2 is an eye for an eye orientation, where the individual thinks that it is okay to do it if it is done to me first. Level 3 is the golden rule, where the individual treats others like they would like to be treated. Level 4 includes following external rules and regulations. And level 5 is what is best for all involved. What level of moral reasoning do you see the most when dealing with athletes in sport? And when do you see or hear this type of reasoning?
Honestly, again, I know I might be a little bit biased with my whole career being in track and field, but I think the sport itself really does breed a lot of respect for one another and a lot of really good sportsmanship. So typically, I would say I usually do see level 5 and level 4. What's the level?
Moral reasoning.
Sorry, moral reasoning. Yeah, I see level 5 and level 4 where people are not really trying to get away with things, because I mean, the neat thing about track is it's pretty black and white, like times don't lie. So 400 meters is 400 meters on every single track, and there's not a lot of room for gray area. The gun goes off, you run as hard as you can, and you cross the finish line. So there's not a lot of opportunity for like that gray area, like, oh, I don't know if she tripped her or that person like did something that they shouldn't have. So typically I do see a lot of really good judgment in the sport, and most of the time people usually follow the rules. I can give examples of like some things I have seen that aren't good, I guess, if you need that. Do you need that?
Maybe you could just mention like occasionally you see this, but
okay, I'm trying to think of something that I've seen.
But it's rare or something.
Yeah, I will say like an obscure example of maybe like someone who's trying to get away with something would be like a 100-meter runner who tries to guess the gun. So when they're in like the ready position and you have to wait for the gun to go off, sometimes you'll see an athlete that tries to guess the gun and get that really slight advantage of a push before the gun goes off. And usually that results in a false start and they get kicked out of the meet. So it's usually not a good decision, and every now and then they can get away with it.
Sometimes in sports we see bad sporting behavior like hazing. Have you ever had to deal with hazing, and what was the consequences for an athlete with bad behavior?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for 9 years now, and honestly, I think hazing is taken way more seriously now than it used to be, maybe in like, particularly like in the 80s and the 90s. I have never in my career dealt with any type of hazing, other than maybe like a non-physical form of hazing where they had potentially like had the freshman write something or carry in the water cooler or something like that, which I wouldn't even necessarily call hazing, but we've always promoted the idea of like leadership within the team. So if you're gonna make a freshman do something that you wouldn't normally do, then that's not really the way we would teach it. So if you want someone to carry in the water cooler, then you lead by example. And typically, seniors and juniors would be actually doing more of that work so that they're setting the example for the freshmen. So I've personally never dealt with hazing. I have heard stories from Coach Walker, who's been coaching now for 24, 25 years, where it was pretty serious at some bigger schools, and the coach had to address it right away and basically say, like, this cannot happen ever again. And now there's so much support with the NCAA and with the administration. There's so much education on hazing. I mean, if you're even caught doing that, the idea of it, you can lose your spot on a team. And it's taken really seriously. So it really, in the last decade, honestly, I don't think has been a huge issue.
Yeah. Last question. What is your best advice for a team when it comes to developing character and good sporting behavior? Like within a team and individually?
My best advice for developing character within a team and individually, honestly, I think you have to have like a very simple, common mantra. And I've always believed in leaving the program better than when you found it. And if you think about that mantra, that goes for coaches, that goes for athletes, that goes for support staff. You've only have a very short amount of time here. You have 4 or 5 years in college to make an impact. And if you kind of have that mindset, that growth mindset of, I'm going to lead this program better, I'm going to contribute positively, I think that creates a really good positive momentum versus what can this program do for me? How are they going to help me? How are they going to pay me? How are they going to get me better? I think we really need to reverse that to, how can I help my teammates? How can I help myself? How can I help this program? And so just kind of like all across the board, athletes all the way up to even an athletic director, if you sort of live by these simplistic values of, being honest and being positive and being hardworking, which I know sounds like very cliche, but it's true. If you can like make those the fundamentals of what you are doing, then your athletes will then reflect that, and it's a really positive environment.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to participate.
You're welcome. Thanks for interviewing.